Hi guys, Emma again. I've been away for a few days and here's just a video that I shot while I was away. This is my model of Otto and Langden's atmospheric gas engine. Otto and Langden built this together, and it was Nikolaus August Otto and the Deutz company's first production internal combustion engine. It's actually a vacuum engine, an atmospheric gas engine. The vacuum on top of the piston on the outside, the pressure on the top of the piston on the outside is what actually does the work and pulls that rack down, which turns the flywheel. When the rack gets to the bottom, it catches a little pole that drops the ratchet out of gear and lets the eccentrics and valves work for one revolution. That pulls the flame into the valve and into the cylinder, and the gas into the cylinder, and fires the piston up, and then when the valve's shut, it pulls down, well, the vacuum from the burnt combustion gases actually pull down the piston and do the little bit of actual work that this engine is capable of. This is a 1/6 scale model roughly, and it's actually spark ignition rather than open flame. It's got a buzz coil in that box at the base. That nameplate is actually a printer's block. If you do your artwork and take it down to your local rubber stamp manufacturer or printer, they'll be able to make up a little rubber nameplate that looks like that, and from there you can either cast it or just paint it. This doesn't seem to get hot enough to worry it, and it's just a rubber stamp plate, but it's nice and fine, and that's a really good way to actually make a nameplate or something like that. Just a heads up. The column's also 6-sided. The actual prototype was 8-sided, but I never had any octagonal bar, so that was the way that was made. It actually runs on illuminating gas or acetylene, and it has run a few times, but it needs a little bit of work with the valves, and it's quite a big job to get it going just exactly right, so one day maybe that'll happen. That rack's just made out of a bit of key steel, and the teeth were cut on the lathe with just a couple of stops. You move one and wind the saddle along, and then reset the stop and put the stop in again and move it again, and it seems to work okay. The gears are, I think, from a motorbike gearbox. I went to the motorcycle wreckers and had a look in their box. That's where they come from. The handrails, the bearing blocks are silver soldered up from brass rod, and the flywheel was a belt pulley of something, I'm not sure what, that we turned down the outside of. It seems to suit it nicely. It should have a pretty Victorian 6-spoke flywheel, but it doesn't, and that doesn't look too bad. The Timbers Doll's House parquetry on the top there, it seemed to be the best thing, and it looks good, and it's nice and easy to keep clean and dust free, and it's just an acetylene or gas regulator there to get the pressure down enough of some of the operating mechanism. It's actually a fairly complex little motor, but it has run, and it does run okay. It needs a good pull apart and a clean before it'll run again. I think it got a bit dusty in the last 5 or 6 or 10 years. But that's Nikolaus August Otto's first real successful gas engine or atmospheric gas engine, and that's sort of what it looks like. This actually won a competition. The Australian Model Engineer magazine under 18 award, so gosh, it's a few years since I built it. And we had a perpetual trophy for 12 months, which is kind of nice. But luckily they didn't ask for it to be running, because it does have a few little issues and it's a noisy, cantankerous, rotten thing to get going. So there's a clutch in that gear there. It's got a series of ramps and rollers, which is how Eugine Langden's patent roller clutch worked. And the little bellows there is just for the lighting gas supply. It's actually just a fake, but it was hooked up to the illuminating gas supply in a town or in a factory. It needed that little set of bellows to take the bounce out of the line, so that every time it fired it didn't blow out all the lights. So that's what the bellows is for. So I thought you might all like a look. I'm still, after all this time, I like to play with it, and I'm rather pleased with it as a model. It is nice, and I would like to have it running a little bit better. It needs some valve and some port work, but right now it's in Tasmania and I'm in Queensland, and it's not a particularly portable engine. I'd have to take it all apart to actually bring it up here, I think. And I've got a lot of other projects, so it's not hurting anything, just looking pretty. And one day when I retire, maybe I'll get it running nicely. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and more soon.